Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Galit Speaks podcast. I have an awesome guest tonight. I'm super excited for it. Please welcome Louis Marinucci. He is a diver with autism, a mermaid, a Twitch streamer, and a YouTuber. Thank you so much for coming on, Louis.
Thank you, Galit. I'm actually a merman, but that's okay.
So how did you get into this and like what made you want to be a part of the underwater world?
Well, I fell in love with diving since I was 2 years old when I first seen it on TV, and I am also I'm a March baby. I'm a Pisces. I'm a water bug. As for being a merman, let's just say it was someone who I was friends with for a while. After they became a mermaid, they inspired me to become a merman.
That's awesome. And so when were you diagnosed with autism and how does that fit in?
Well, I didn't find out until I was age 12 when I was diagnosed as an Asperger syndrome, having
Okay.
Asperger syndrome. But I also have ADHD, which I've had since I was younger.
Yeah. And do you feel like the underwater world and diving or mermaiding has helped you deal with your autism in any way?
Yes, it has.
Yeah, how do you think that it helps?
Helps to deal with anxiety, which I have a lot of. It helps me get some dopamine into my system.
That's great. So, with anxiety, do you think that it's just being part of the water, being in the water itself? Or is it some type of breathing exercises that you learned because of diving or mermaiding or, you know, any other water sports?
Well, it's because I think it's just being in the water. My mind just all my troubles just go away.
That's awesome. And so, when did you start actually going into the water? And did you start first with diving or was it mermaiding?
Well, I started with diving at the age of 22 in 2006.
Wow.
It it took me years. Well, I wouldn't say years. It just took me about 4 times to get certified. I failed 2 times under Nowie, once under Patty. I also used to be a lifeguard for my local YMCA, and I also used to help teach swim lessons until I lost my job because of the pandemic. Now, as for mermaiding, well, haven't got too much tail time in. The last time I got some tail time in with my beloved tail right here. Sorry for the background, which is a Taylor guppy and my beloved mermaid Linden monofin, which you see here. The last time I got to do it was during my trip to Cozumel with my friends from Dive Heart, which I will tell you about later.
Yeah. So, how long have you been mermaiding then?
Well, I didn't get my tail till 3 years ago on March 12th, the day that COVID-19 was officially declared a pandemic.
Wow. And
Yeah,
where have you been practicing? Where do you live?
I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Wow. So, do you get to use your tail in Pennsylvania?
Rarely, if not hardly. It's because there's hardly no place for me to swim. Though I'm part of the PA Mermaid Pod, but I have no car, no license.
Wow. So when you got into mermaiding, you said it was a friend that really brought you into it, that it was something that they did and that you got inspired to
Yeah.
do.
Well, this person and I are no longer close with each other. Kind of had a falling out. It's a long story.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. What was it about their experience with mermaiding that made you want to try it?
Well, she actually, ever since she was younger, she told me she used to write make songs about mermaids. She see the show H2O, and well, ever since she moved to Florida, got her Patty Advanced Mermaid and started swimming with the Florida Mermaid Springs Mermaids. She's got to live that dream.
Wow.
I do want to live down in Florida myself and swim with that pod, but for now, I'm just focusing on me.
Wow. So what do you want to do with mermaiding?
Become a professional merman and do some gigs, like maybe Renaissance fairs. Maybe I kind of wanted to do aquarium mermaiding, but unfortunately, some companies, which I'm not going to name because I don't want to talk bad about them, because I know some professional mers who do work for these companies. Yeah, I don't want to talk bad about them because
Okay.
a lot of these mers who I know through Instagram have nothing but support for me in my ambitions in becoming a professional merman.
That's awesome. So I am familiar with mermaids. I know that I have a nonprofit that I'm a part of with Nicole Zellick, and she teaches people how to be mermaids. And I also have, I have seen mermaids perform at Renaissance fairs and different aquariums, and I think it's so cool. And it's always been, something that I and a lot of people aspire to. So I'm really pleased that first of all that you're going for it, but also that you're going for it as a male, because that's something that a lot of men kind of feel like, "Oh, I can't be a mermaid because I'm a man." As you said, you could be a merman. How do you feel about that?
I feel honored, and it wasn't just because of this person. Hi, Nicole. Glad you could join us. It wasn't just because of my so-called former friend who got me into mermaiding. It was also because I seen the movie The Little Mermaid when I was 5 years old, and I seen mermen in the movie, and of course Mako Mermaids because it has mermen in it.
Yeah. And do you find like you get any pushback from the community because of who you are?
If you mean in a negative way, no, not really.
No? So how does it feel in the community? What do people tell you? What are some of the things that people say to you?
Well, they think it's amazing, and some professional mermaids have actually told me there's always a need for more mermen out there.
Yeah. I think that so many little girls saw The Little Mermaid and wanted to be a mermaid, but it's funny because a lot of the men that I've met in my life are always like they don't feel the same way. So I'm really happy to hear that you're not facing any of that like negative back talk.
I do follow other mermen in the community, such as Merman Christian.
Okay. You follow
And
most of them on Instagram or social media?
both.
Okay, awesome. Now, I also know that you are a Twitch streamer and a YouTube. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what you talk about?
Well, as a YouTuber, I go on different adventures. Mermaiding's one of them. So is scuba diving. I also make videos about Pokemon Go. I also do interviews. I have an interview coming up tomorrow with the mermaid seamstress, who's also a YouTuber herself. As for me being a Twitch streamer, I stream different games.
That's really cool. And the interview, I'm so curious about this interview that you have tomorrow. Tell me a little bit about who you're speaking with and what they do.
Her name is Justine, also known as the mermaid seamstress. She's also a YouTuber.
Cool. And does she make mermaid tails or?
No, she swims in tails. She's also a Patty Advanced mermaid.
That's great. I wanted to ask you about the organization that you were talking about, Dive Heart.
Yeah, yeah. They're based. Let me tell you this. They're based out of Downers Grove, a suburb of Chicago. It's ran by a man named Jim Elliott. He used to be a reporter for WGN, and he got the idea from from essentially helping his blind daughter out by getting her involved with adaptive skiing. So he thought if this could work with skiing, why not it work with scuba diving? And that's how Dive Heart was born. It was created in 2001.
And what's their mission?
Dive Heart's mission, they help different people. They help people with all types of disabilities, not just on the autism spectrum or people who are blind, but also those in wheelchairs.
And they allow people with disabilities to experience the underwater world,
Yes, as they call it, scuba therapy.
scuba therapy. And how did you get involved with it?
Well, my friend and scuba mentor, a woman named Wendy Crown, she is friends with Jim Elliott, and she got me to do a trip with Jim in 2016. And of course, I first found Dive Heart in 2015 when I found an article about autism and scuba diving. And of course, the man featured in the article, who I've met on my numerous trips to Cozumel, Nick Johnson, was the focus of the story. Him and his father, Glenn Johnson, who, of course, Nick wasn't on my last trip, my recent trip, but his father, Glenn, was.
And so you found this group after you had already been diving?
Yeah, because I had a 9-year hiatus in diving because I was doing things like cheerleading and, you know, being busy with my job. But I returned to diving in 2015 when I first went back to Epcot, where I got to dive there in 2015.
That's awesome. So does that that's a nonprofit, right? The organization?
Correct. It is correct.
Do they introduce people to diving for the first time as well, or do they just work with people who have
Yes.
already been diving?
It doesn't matter.
Awesome. And
To answer your
Nicole,
question, Nicole, to answer your question, Nicole, I've learned a lot from Dive Heart about having heart, having spirit.
So the question
And
that
it's,
Nicole asked was, what has Lewis learned from participating with Dive Heart?
let's just say I've learned to adapt, which is their motto.
That's awesome. So what types of things have you adapted to, do you think?
Trying to learn how to be patient, which of course is still a learning curve for me.
That's great. So do you think that your work in diving and your work with mermaiding and your work with Dive Heart, that that has helped you in your everyday life?
To some extent, yes.
What are some of the things that you use that you've learned that you use in your daily life?
It's just hard to explain. I, you know, I learned to, be more considerate towards fellow, people such as people in wheelchairs, which of course in dive heart we call them wheelchair users, and when they get on the boat, they're usually the ones to be put on first and the last to get off.
Wow, that's actually a very important lesson. And I'm happy to hear that, that that's something that you learned because I think that honestly, that's something that everyone could use learning. So, what is next for you?
You mean in my ambitions? What I
Yeah.
have planned? Well, I'm still waiting to hear from Naui on whether or not I'll get a scholarship because Nicole has been helping me, and hopefully I'm going to go down to Florida in 2 months to do my training to become a Naui mermaid instructor and also a skin diving instructor. And of course, finish my open water free diver training.
Cool. And so, for anyone who doesn't know, NAUI is a certification agency that does certifications in the underwater world. Um, what kind of scholarship is it that you're waiting for?
The 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 diversity one.
Awesome. So, there's a program that's going to help you. And what are you planning on learning with this scholarship?
On how to become a mermaid instructor, get my advanced mermaid in the process.
That's great. So, do you plan on teaching people how to be a mermaid?
Yes, I do.
That's awesome. So I know you said that you'd like to do it in Florida, but that's kind of a down the road type of thing. Where are you thinking of doing it in Pennsylvania now?
Not at the moment, though. I'd have to find some pools and all.
Yeah. And are
Yeah,
there, sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead, Galit. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask you, are there programs in your area or in nearby areas that you can take advantage of to go in the pool and get some pool time?
Well, uh, not at not at the moment. As Nicole just said, I can't wait to learn from Lewis on how to create accessible training with a focus on neurodivergent students. And she also said Lewis will be a great asset to the mermaid instruction community.
Yeah, I think it's really important for different types of people to be involved in the creating of teaching methods, right? Because not everyone learns the same, not everyone processes information the same. So it's really important that we develop methods that everyone can understand the material and start to use it.
And Nicole said, once I'm an instructor, we'll be able to help him connect with resources in his area to run his instruction business. And Galit, I also want to tell you this. I'm also a PADI open water scuba diver too.
That's
I forgot to
awesome.
tell you that earlier.
Yeah. So your certification, what are your certifications right now?
PADI open water scuba diver, dive hard adaptive diver, and now we confined water free diver.
Wow.
I always wanted to learn how to free dive since I was 13. Since I seen Megan Haney Grainer, the former free diving champion. You've heard of her?
Yeah.
Yes. And
So
of course, let me tell you about how I met Nicole. I met her on Facebook one day. It took me a while to, trust her and accept her. And after a while, she offered to teach me how to free dive as a payment, since she couldn't donate to my dive hard trip. We went to Lake Allure last August. I did I did good, but I ran into an issue. I was dealing with cramps. I was also dealing with a sinus squeeze while trying to dive down to 10 meters. And I had a nosebleed. I couldn't finish my training. We tried to finish it in early October, but then Hurricane Ian came in and prevented me from doing it there at Round Valley. And my parents were also concerned about me going to Round Valley because of safety concerns.
yeah. And so that's for your free diving training, right?
Yes, and if I do go down to Florida with Nicole, we're planning to do it at Weeki Wachee.
That's awesome. So for people that don't know the difference between scuba diving and free diving, what can you tell them?
Scuba diving is where you're breathing through a regulator and you have a tank on your back. Free diving is where you dive down underwater on one breath. And and I chose to want to become a free diver because of being a merman.
Yeah, I think that with free diving, right, it would be a bonus for mermaiding because you really understand how to control your breath. And scuba diving, on the other hand, one of the biggest rules is never stop breathing, right? And
Exactly.
so it's a very different experience, both obviously in the underwater world, but it's two completely different sports.
Yes, it is.
So, being that you've tried all three, what do you think is your favorite and why?
I I have to say I love mermaiding, and the fact that I get to see other mers on Instagram and Facebook do it a lot of times makes me look forward to the day I finally do it.
And what is it about mermaiding that you find you like best?
It's just magical.
Yeah, it does seem really magical the way that you can glide through the water. And
As
Nicole, yeah,
Nicole just said, it's hard to choose. It's like choosing your fave ice cream flavor. giving me them all, put me in the water.
Yeah. So I have a question about your autism. So can you tell us a little bit about what the symptoms are for particular your particular place on the spectrum?
Well, let's just say I tend to have meltdowns. I sometimes don't think, but I'm intelligent though. Ever seen The Good Doctor on ABC?
No, I haven't.
That comes on Monday nights
Okay.
because the main protagonist, a doctor named Sean Murphy, has autism and savant syndrome, and he doesn't let neither of them stop him from being a doctor, a surgeon.
That's great. And you identify with him because you feel like even though you have these limitations, you also are not going to let them get in the way of your dreams.
Exactly. And of course, Nicole just said I'm one of the dedicated and intelligent students that she's ever had, that I can follow the directions right away. She's right about that.
Yeah. So, are there things about autism that you think have made you a better diver or a better merman?
Well, I use my platforms to spread autism awareness, and forgot to say earlier, I also make videos about what it's like to be on the spectrum too on my YouTube channel.
Yeah. So, I'm curious, what is it like to be on the spectrum?
It's hard to explain. It can be weird and awkward, and sometimes I'm misunderstood. And but of course, Nicole just said I have incredible attention to detail and safety, and she's correct about that.
Yeah, I think that is such an important piece of being a part of the underwater world. And it's so often the thing that is least paid attention to by people that are starting, right? You get the average person in the water and they are just like, oh, just let me go in. I know it. I'm good. I can do it all. And they don't focus on the details and making sure that it's a safe dive. And that's when people get into trouble. I think for me, that's what's so great about the way that I learned how to scuba dive. I actually took a course in college. I got 3 credits to learn how to scuba dive. But what that did was I had an entire semester in the pool to get really comfortable with every piece of the equipment, learn how to put it together, take it apart, do it underwater, get super, super, super comfortable with wearing it all, taking it off, you know, being able to take it apart and put it together underwater. And just all of the little kinks were worked out before I ever got into the ocean. And I think that was really a great way for me to learn.
When I did my open water dives, it was here in Pennsylvania at a local quarry, which of course was originally called Dutch Springs, which is now called Lake Hydra. And during my third dive, I accidentally went down to 60 feet because I was having trouble with my weight belt. My buoyancy wasn't very good at the time, but I still managed to pass. But during my time with Dive Heart, things have gotten better and better. I can control my buoyancy. My air consumption is much better now.
Yeah. So Dutch Springs is actually somewhere where that dove before. Now that you said it's called Lake Hydra,
Correct.
are people still allowed to dive there?
They will be once it reopens.
Okay, I am glad to hear that because when I heard that it was being sold, I was very sad for, that was really a great place for the tri state area to be able to dive. There weren't many locations like that that people in that area could dive. And Dutch Springs was such a huge part of um, my experience with diving and especially my experience with Nicole. That's actually, we also met on Facebook. Um,
So you
and
dove at Dutch before?
yeah, so Nicole was actually the person to take me to Dutch Springs for the first time. I used to live in New York. Um, and Nicole and I met on a Facebook group called Girls That Scuba. And she invited me to a woman's dive day that she was running at Dutch Springs. And we've been great friends ever since. So, and actually, our nonprofit, the Diversity Initiative, has done a few events at Dutch Springs. So, you know, it has such a huge place in my heart, and to know that it's going to continue and that people will still be able to take advantage of diving there is really important to me.
Galit, I also forgot to tell you this. I'm also a volunteer aquarium diver at the Adventure Aquarium across the Delaware River in Camden.
That's really cool. How did you start that?
Well, that was because I wanted to continue getting more experience after my second dive heart trip. It was five years ago. I applied and then I took the pool test. I did good, so I joined the aquarium. But of course, because of the pandemic, I was temporarily away from the aquarium throughout 2020 and part of 2021 until Christmas Eve of 2021. But of course, I get to dive only once a month because the dive safety officer, who is also a now instructor and also knows Nicole, he's a man named Pat McLaughlin, lives in my neighborhood and he helps me out too.
That's awesome. So you've been doing that again since Christmas of 2021?
Yes, but I had to wait again until October of 2022 because he had a diving accident and I had to wait till he was recovered.
Wow. Wow. So I feel like you do so much. How do you keep it all straight?
Well, I can take as much as I can. Galit, whenever whenever I have something mental and I'm not able to live stream or make videos, I kind of give myself some headspace until I'm able to. Hopefully, I will be able to live stream again on my birthday, which is this Sunday, because I really do want to get back to streaming.
Happy birthday. Happy early birthday.
Thanks. I turned 39 on Sunday.
That's awesome. Do you have anything special planned for your birthday besides streaming?
Not too much. What I got for my birthday, which my early birthday gifts came last week, I got myself a free diving gear bag, especially in case I go down to Florida with Nicole, to take with me on the plane. My free diving fins, mask, snorkel, weight belt, and then there's also I also got myself a shorty wetsuit for scuba diving in tropical waters.
That's awesome. What's the difference in gear that you have between all the diving sport? The diving, the free diving, and the mermaiding. I know that they are completely different gear.
Well, as you see here, this monofin My monofins, like my Mermaid Linden monofin, it's used in mermaiding, which of course you hide it under a tail skin, which makes it look like you actually have an actual tail. Then, then free diving, you use really long fins. You use a different type of mask, different type of snorkel, different type, different types of wetsuits, which of course are open cell wetsuits, which I currently don't have any at the moment. Would like to get one eventually. Of course, you have to take your time when putting it on, as Nicole told me. Now, scuba diving wetsuits are closed cell, and the fins are different. Of course, you have closed, you have full foot fins where you just slip your feet in, wearing socks or you're barefooted. But adjustable fins is where you have boots, and you put them on and you adjust your to them to your heels.
Yeah. Yeah, so when you go, let's say when you go to Florida, are you planning on taking all of your gear?
Just my free diving equipment and my mermaiding equipment.
That's great. So let's say you decide to go scuba diving, or on the scuba diving trips that you have gone on, do you bring your gear, or do you
I bring
rent?
my gear. No, I don't rent. I bring my own gear. My 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 regulator was donated to me by my friends from Kit Sea Camp 5 years ago, and a dive computer.
That's
I,
awesome.
I have a BCD. I also have two wetsuits, a full 3 mil and a 2.5 mil shorty.
That's great. It's so funny. Like, so what is so the 3 mil is the thickness for anyone who doesn't know wetsuits. The millimeter is going to be your thickness. So 3 mil is kind of like a standard thickness. And then for colder water, you have a 5 mil or a 7 mil, or a dry suit. Uh, it's funny
I'm
that you
currently not dry suit certified. I'm currently not dry suit certified.
Yeah, me neither. That's something that I haven't done yet because I don't love diving in cold water. I have done it. It's not my favorite thing.
I we use 5 mil wetsuits at the Adventure Aquarium.
Yeah. I It's funny because I use 5 mil or 7 mil wetsuit. Like I just used I was diving the Red Sea last month, and I used a 5 mil there. I am in tropical waters. I am wearing a full 3 mil wetsuit with a hood. I just run really cold, and so I am constantly wearing, a suit I can get away with. So I really envy people like you who can wear a shorty, because I feel like you get to experience the water a little bit differently than I can.
I also used to be a competitive swimmer too.
That's awesome. Where did you do that?
The Y and also Special Olympics.
Ooh, tell me a little bit more about that. How did you get into that?
Well, let's just say got influenced by my ex-girlfriend who used to do it herself till she graduated high school. Yeah, and when I did it for the Y, it was on the kids team. I just did it for fun, race against children.
That's really great. So
I also helped them.
yeah,
I also used to help them out too.
Help them out how? With training or?
Yeah,
That's amazing. Are you a swim instructor?
I used to be one. I even tried to get the Y certification, but I failed that 2 times and hadn't been given another chance since. And I tried their lifeguard crossover in 2007, but I failed that as well. So I was removed and relieved of my lifeguarding duties and reduced to maintenance around the pool. Then I became a swim instructor's aide until that got taken away in 2019, and then reduced to maintenance around the pool again. And believe me, I was getting tired of it, and over time, my job at the Y kind of got toxic.
Yeah, do you think that the reason that you didn't do well on those tests were that they were geared towards people that were neurotypical?
Yes, and it took. And speaking of getting my Red Cross certification, it took me 4 times. I didn't know how to swim laps. I couldn't. Didn't have the stamina. I couldn't retrieve the brick. During those other attempts, I got better with all those.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're super determined and you don't give up until you get what you want.
Exactly. That's how I am.
That's really, really inspiring. And I hope that if anybody watching is feeling like they can't do it, I hope that they listen to your story. And especially for anybody watching that is neurodivergent, there are things that you can do, and Lewis is out there doing things, and I really hope that Lewis can be an inspiration to people.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So if people want to reach out to you or they want to follow you, how can they find you?
They can follow me on Instagram through my personal handle, CVPI19. They can also follow my YouTube handle, Lou Adventure. They can also follow me at Merman underscore Adventura underscore Philly. They can also follow me on YouTube, Lewis's Adventures. They can also follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Lou Adventures. I'm also on TikTok as well.
That's awesome. So I hope that anyone, if you're watching this now or you're watching this on the replay, if you want to get in touch with Lewis, please do. It's, definitely watch the interview that he has planned for later this week. Um, and like, subscribe, share this video, make sure that it gets out there to the people that need to see it. Thank you so much, Lewis, for being here. I really, really appreciate it. Is there any last advice or any last things that you want to tell the audience?
Just be yourself, work hard, don't give up.
I love that. I think that's so important. Thank you so, so much for that wisdom. I'm Galit Speaks. You can catch me on all social media under Galit Speaks. Thank you so much again, Lewis, for being here and for sharing so much about your life.
You're welcome, Galit.
And we will see you next week. Next Wednesday, we have another episode coming out. So please stay tuned for that. And we will see you then. Have a great day, everyone. Bye bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye.